In the last episode we created title filter. So if we go to our page, we have this input box, we can start writing something in it, and it will filter our posts by these titles right here. Okay, so in this episode we are going to create a category filter, and we're going to have some radio buttons, and when we click those radio buttons that are going to represent our categories, we are going to filter out our posts based on what we clicked. As you will see, this is going to be just a bit more complicated than doing a title filter, but also really easy because we're using Vue.js. So in our index.php, I'm just going to add by category. So this is just a wrapper for our radio buttons. And I'm just going to add clear fix class to it because we are going to be floating them. We can then do h4 and just add some title right here. Filter by category. Okay. And then we do radio wrap. Remember, all of the CSS is already written for this, so I just need this div with a class of radio wrap, so that by the end of this, this is all going to look pretty. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, we need to add an input field, and that input field is going to be of type radio. We don't need a name, but we need a value, and the value is going to be the ID of the category that we want to filter out. But before we do that, we are going to edit a V model, just like we did for this input field for our title filter, and that V model we will call it category filter. And before we forget, we just go to our app.js file, go to the data, and add that category filter in our data. Now we just add label, and we're going to call that label some category. I'm just doing this just to show you what we need to do to filter out our categories. And I'm going to filter out all the categories with the ID of 3. So I'm going to add 3 to our value. And of course, this isn't going to work because we need to add in our for each loop that filter, just like we did for the title filter. So filter by name filter in title. So we are going to do another pipe right here and do filter by category filter in categories. And let me show you what that means. So if we go right here, we go to our REST API, go to posts, we have these categories fields, and we have the IDs of the categories. So this should actually hopefully work. When we refresh the page, we have this some category, and if I click it, it will filter out all the categories that have the category ID of 3, actually all the posts that have the category ID of 3, and in this case category with the ID of 3 is books. So this is how that works. But of course we don't want to have to hard code the name of our the names and IDs of our categories right here. We want Vue.js to display them just like we have them in the WordPress administration. So this is the next thing we are going to be doing. To display the names and IDs of those categories, we of course have to first connect to our API and get the list of categories. And to do that, you can just go to your REST API and do something like categories right here. And as you will see, this is the list of all the categories that you have available. Okay, so right now we are going to go right here. I'm just going to copy this for the posts that we did, and I'm going to name it categories. And the resource is not going to be posts per page, but it's just going to be categories. So we are doing this in our ready function. Next, we need to set that data. And to set that data, we can just copy this right here, just like we did for the posts, except we're going to use variable categories, and we are going to receive categories. And when we receive them, we are going to set our data. We're going to call that data, of course, categories, and the data name is, and that's it. Of course, before we forget, we just have to define it right here in our data. So categories, leave it empty, save it. Now we have access to all these categories right here, their IDs, their names, and so on. Next thing we need to do, we just need to create another for each loop to display all of our categories. So I'm just going to copy this out, paste it right here, and then in this div class radio rep, we are going to do v4 equals, and then we do category in categories. So the local variable is going to be called category. Okay, next thing we need to do, instead of this value, hard-coded value, we're just going to get the category ID. So this is category, this is the ID of the category. So we just do this category dot ID. And now this is no longer static. So we have this, and of course we want the name of the category, and instead this sum category, we are just going to write category dot name, and that should be it. Actually, we save this, go to our page, and see what we get. So as you can see, we get some category. This is our category that we created before. We get apples, books, cars, movies, oranges. So if I click apples, we get the category of apples, books, cars, movies, oranges. Let's say we don't want this uncategorized category right here. We don't want it. This is the default WordPress category. So we can do just something like this. We can go right here to our v4 and do v-if equals to, and then we do category name dot name is not equal to uncategorized. So it's not equal to uncategorized. So display all the categories except the one that have name of uncategorized. Save this, refresh it, and as you can see, we don't have this uncategorized right here. So we have those categories right here. As you can see, when I click on books, some category also lights up because it's the category of 3. But instead of this sum category, we are going to call this one all, and the value is going to be nothing. So when we refresh the page right now, we get all, so we are displaying all of the posts. Now we're displaying apples, books, cars, movies, but when we click all again, we are going to be displaying all of the posts. Just remember that this all is not inside of this v4 loop because we don't have the category called all, so we're just hard coding it above this. Okay, so this is it for this video. In the next video, we are going to take all of these categories and actually filters and going to make them a bit prettier, add some transitions to them, make them appear on a click, and so on. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please like it. If you like the channel, please subscribe to it. Also remember that everything we did here is available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. And that's it. Thank you for watching once again, and I will see you in the next episode.